Welcome back to Daily Flash. I'm Riesa Pascal. Did you ever think that having nightmares could be a good thing? Well, our next guest says that when we seek to understand their hidden meaning, they could actually be working on our behalf. Kelly Sullivan Walden is a dream expert and author, and she joins us now to talk about turning tragic into magic. Kelly, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Riesa. It's a pleasure to be here on Daily Flash with you. Thank
Absolutely.
you for having me.
This is just such an interesting conversation. I want to know, how did interpreting nightmares help you handle the waking nightmare?
Oh, it's easier to suspend our disbelief when it comes to working with dreams. I always say that a nightmare isn't over just because you woke up. We can always re-engage in the dream even in our waking state. So as a professional, I got very much in the habit of telling people it's good news when you have a nightmare. It's not a bad thing. It's actually great because it means that your subconscious mind is speaking and you can hear it. That means you can course correct. Our nightmares are always about something that we can do to release, to let go, to course correct, and to pick up the dream where it left off in your waking state. Imagine that you were the writer of that story. You could like add the ending that would empower you. And after doing this for so many years, I started to see the connection between doing this work on the nighttime dreams with other people and myself, and then all of a sudden being able to say, oh my God, wait, we're dreaming all the time. We can do the same process in our waking lives as well, as strange as that may seem.
Amazing. And I know you have a method called Ogle that can actually help us find that positive in our living nightmares. I want to go through these steps. Let's start off with the first one. You say, oh, identifying the offending behavior. Tell me about that.
Yeah. Well, in general, ogle means to really look at something. I mean, yes, there's a bad rap, kind of lecherous idea that goes along with that, but this is a like the transformational view of ogle. So the O is give yourself permission to vent, to cry, to express what was so upsetting about the nightmare, the nighttime nightmare, or the waking life situation. I'm in California right now where it's flooding. So give yourself permission to be human and just say, oh my God, this is awful. This sucks. This is painful. So you get all of that O out of your system, and then you can move to the G.
The G, finding the good in the behavior. How am I supposed to find good in a nightmare? That just seems like it makes no sense. Explain that one
Right.
to me.
Well, it's interesting because if you think about it, even in nature, next to poison oak, it grows jewelweed. There's always a solution right next door. For example, somebody shared with me a nightmare where they were on a raft in the middle of the ocean all by themselves and they were terrified. I said, is there anything good that's happening here? I mean, of course, I gave them compassion first for the, oh, I'm so sorry. That must have been scary. But she said, well, what's good is I have a raft. I guess that's good. Oh, I'm breathing. And so it's about just, it's as counterintuitive as it gets to look for the good in the midst of something difficult. But when you do it, you start to find it. It's like you're a detective on the hunt for the gold, and you don't want to leave any scraps of gold behind. And this is not to pour paint over our pain. It's
Sure.
just about let's climb our way out. We give ourselves plenty of time in the O to bemoan our circumstance. But then if we want to transform it, we have to start looking for the gold or the good in the circumstance. And that brings us to the L.
The L. Now, for this one, determine how you're peering into the looking glass. What's that about?
So this is about looking in the mirror. How do I do this offending behavior? How do I do this very same thing, even if it's just a speck? So the person on the raft, for example, how do I isolate myself? How do I cut myself adrift? How do I pull myself apart from other people? Am I at all like this offending ocean? Or how am I like the flood? How am I overwhelmed in life? How am I like that? Like when somebody stole my purse, it's one of the stories in my book, my purse that had my laptop and my wallet
Oh,
and everything.
no.
It's like, how am I also the thief that steals my time when I'm focused on things that don't really matter? So we just have to get creative. How am I like this, even if it's just a speck? And that strangely is where everything starts to turn around. And then that brings us to the E.
That's right. We've shifted our mindset and now we're at E. Ask how this will elevate you. How do I ask myself that question?
Right, because once we've identified what's in the looking glass, we've also identified the part that is ours to play. So there's a lot of things in this world we have zero control over, but there is a little sliver of the pie that is ours to do. And we ask ourselves, okay, within this little sliver of the pie, what is my one little baby step that I could take in an upward direction? For example, the person cut adrift on the raft that recognized, yes, she had been isolated. She had been isolating herself. Maybe she'll take one little baby step toward becoming a little more social. So it's like, what can I do? What is one little tiny step I can take to elevate my circumstance? Because really, that's all we have control over. And if we do one
Yep.
little thing, we'll find that we transform everything. So it's,
Kelly, you have such incredible tips. Thank you for joining us. For those of you at home, if you would like more information on decoding dreams or to get a copy of Kelly's new book titled A Crisis is a Terrible Thing to Waste, you can head over to kellysullivanwalden.com. Kelly, thank you again for joining.